Hello, and welcome to the episode of Women in Engineering, success stories from STEM professionals. In this episode, I will be talking with Mariah Schroeder. She's a professional engineer, a senior process engineer at Burns McDonnell, about her experiences in a predominantly male industry, communication dynamics in STEM, engagement with students, mentorship, and her recognition with the industry of engineering community. I'm your host, Tiffany Tichy, a senior mechanical engineer, STEM advocate, TEDx international speaker, and an internationally recognized author of children's books, including What Can I Be? STEM Careers from A to Z, a STEM Crew Adventure series. I also am a host of Read It Right radio show on WDRB Media, owner of Thrive Edge Publishing, and owner publishing consultant of Inspired Authors Publishing. And with that, let's jump right into today's episode. Before we go on here's a quick word from our sponsor for this episode, Burns McDonnell. Now it's time to jump right into the main segment of our episode. Today, I have with me Mariah Schroeder. Mariah, welcome to the Women in Engineering podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's jump right into it. Can you tell us a bit more about your journey in becoming a senior process engineer and your role at Burns McDonnell?
Yeah, so I was always talented in math and science. And so in my high school years, I knew I wanted to pursue engineering. And I grew up in Indiana. So Purdue University was just a couple hours away. And so I started there in the engineering program. And one of the cool things about Purdue's program is that the first year they put everyone together in the same courses and kind of everyone gets their basic calculus and physics and engineering courses together. And you have that time to kind of look and see what programs you might be interested in, and then you apply to the engineering school that you're interested in at the end of your first year. And so that really helped me be solid in my choice and what I wanted to pursue as my degree. And so I chose civil engineering. I was very interested in the environment. And so a lot of courses on air quality and water quality and water treatment. And one of my first internships was in indoor air quality. And I love the people that I worked with, but I understood the air was not for me. And sometimes that's the beauty of the internship, is it tells you what path maybe you shouldn't be going down. And so then I pursued water pretty heavily, and I had 2 internships in the water sector. One at Burns McDonnell in their St. Louis office, and then one at Burns McDonnell in their Kansas City office. And I loved the facility design. So drinking water treatment processes, wastewater treatment processes, things that are happening inside the fence to make our water safe. And I completed a master's degree at Purdue as well. I stayed on and did a non-thesis master's. And that really helped me get into the depth of the courses that I needed to be successful in my career. And I've been a process engineer at Burns Mac for 7 years now. And the last year and a half, I've been on a field assignment in Wichita, Kansas, working on a new 120 million gallon per day drinking water treatment plant.
Wow. I love your story. I mean, your journey. It's been awesome. And so to see that you did the undergrad and then you figured out you top, as far as things that you tapped into with the whole internships, they help you know if you want to or not. I mean, that is so true. Exactly. I can attest to that. And so that is definitely one thing that you are definitely sharing that is important as far as your journey of knowing what you like and what you don't want to do.
Yep.
And so I definitely want to encourage more as far as that part of what your journey was, sharing with that. So you come from a family with a strong educational background. How do you think your family academic achievements have influenced your own pursuit of education and career in engineering?
Yeah, so I when I grew up, education was one of the most important priorities in our house. It was food, shelter, psychological safety and security, and then education. And so my mom got her bachelor's and master's at Purdue as well. And so that's a nice tie to have to her. And my dad started some courses at Purdue North Central, that's near my hometown, and didn't finish his degree. And I think that even made it, more important for him that I complete my degree. And they just understood that the likelihood of me having financial security and a successful career was higher if I had a college degree. And so they really prioritized that. And I took that very seriously. That was my job when I was a child. I didn't work. I went to school, and that was the priority for me. And so that made me, extremely successful in high school. And when I was in my bachelor's program at Purdue, I just knew that was my path, and that was important to me.
Love it. I love it. So when you talk about your bachelor's, let's talk about your master's. I mean, you are a fourth generation female to earn a master's degree. How do you see that impact of each generation's educational achievements shaping your perspective on your own career and education?
Yeah, so that is something pretty unique. I feel that my mother, my grandmother, and my great grandmother not only have college degrees but master's degrees. And it just speaks to how seriously they took their education, first of all, but also their independence and their self-reliance. And not everyone can pursue that. My grandmother went to night school to get her master's in education, and her parents were providing the childcare during that time. Not everybody has that luxury to be able to do that. And so, they had the support, and they knew that that was a goal for the family, to be highly educated, to be highly successful. And so my my great grandmother, my grandmother, and my mom are all educators. So I kind of broke broke the mold there with being an engineer, but I think they're happy about it. Um, and so it does inspire me to stay on the path, to remain independent and pursue success in my career, knowing that they kind of paved the path for me ahead of time, with me understanding that this is possible. I can do this. And it also, I would say, um, left me a bit unprepared, in that I had that example. And so, of course, I will be going to college. I will be achieving a master's degree. I will be a successful human and contribute to society. And it left me kind of unaware of some of the underlying discrimination, just discrimination about women in the workplace in general, let alone discrimination for women engineers and women in construction. And so that was kind of a shock to me when I started in the workplace, because you go through high school, you go through college, you're with your peers. They don't know any different. They're looking at you for answers. The males in my class are asking me for homework help, and that's just the reality. And as you get into the workplace, these things just kind of hit me, that this is the reality of the career path that I chose. Everything that I understood to be possible for myself may not be possible due to the underlying discrimination that's occurring.
Wow, where I was just going to go with it. And I love how you said, we talked about the master's degree. My mom was like, go get your master's degree. And I love how you said you continued on. I did the same thing. The non-thesis, she encouraged, she had her master's degree too. So it's encouraging that our family, that our mothers and your grandma and your fourth generation, that you were an example and that they encouraged us as well. So I can attest to that experience. And it's amazing to have that support. And now let's talk about that field of traditionally the dominated field with men. As a woman in the field of traditionally dominated by men, how do you feel, or view the role of women as communicators, teammates, problem solvers in the engineering and construction industry.
Yeah. So engineering being more male dominated, construction being more male dominated. I have the double whammy out here. I'm a field engineer on a construction site, and I am very talented at my job. I have a lot of strengths that apply directly to the job that I'm doing out here, which is a lot of coordination with the contractors, interpreting design drawings and specifications, coordinating with vendors and manufacturers, and just generally working together as a team. We have about 50 individuals that are on the management team out here because this is a $500 million project. There's a lot of coordination that has to occur, a lot of problem solving, a lot of kind of conflict resolution that needs to occur. And those are all things that I'm very talented in. And traditionally, what women are more talented in, that communication piece, that problem solving, offering solutions to an issue that might come up. And problem solving, really, that's all a job is at the basics of it, right? There's a problem, an issue, a opportunity, a program, and you're working to find the best solution. And also persistence, making sure that things that are supposed to get done are getting done. And really, women are so talented at all of those things. I mean, a lot of people are, but women especially, all of those pieces and those strengths are so critical to the engineering profession and construction.
That's it. We are powerful as women, especially women in engineering in these male-dominated fields. So I love how you shared that. Now, you talked about communication. There's a mention of psychogeometrics and the concept of square, triangle, circle, and squiggle communication styles. How have you seen these styles play out in the STEM field? And how can understanding them benefit professionals in engineering and construction?
Yeah, so this concept of psychogeometrics, I really love, and I share it a lot with a lot of the college classes that I talk to. It was developed in the late 70s by Dr. Susan Dellinger, and it essentially was categorizing different types of communication styles. And so she uses shapes to convey how those styles show up in the workplace. And square is data people. So people that need all of the information to be able to make a decision. They enjoy things regularly scheduled. Those types of people, what you might typically consider to be an engineering personality or communication style. A triangle is results people. And so they're going to be the drivers. They take their responsibilities very seriously, and they may also take on others' responsibilities. Circles are people. And so those are kind of the conflict resolution folks. They're always wanting to bring others in and make sure that everyone's working in harmony. And then squiggles are idea people. And so they're constantly looking down the line, trying to find the next thing, the next project. They're easily excitable. And you really need all types of those to make a successful team. And so how I speak about it with college courses is just, can you identify yourself in any of those, or maybe you're a combination of a couple. And then also those that you're working with on your project teams for your classes, do you see any of those traits in your teammates? And then, in your internship or in your role at your job, your part-time job, what about your manager? Is your manager more of a square or more of a squiggle that you have to sit them down and make direct eye contact to be able to discuss something with them? And, it's really applicable in the professional world, where, how you work with other people best and how you work best. And in the consulting world where I live, all of my teams are multidisciplinary. A lot of them are driven by the process improvements that need to go on. So my scope. And so I have to work with, the electrical engineer to make sure it's powered appropriately, and the mechanical engineer to make sure that the HVAC in the building is appropriate, and the architect and the structural engineer, so many other disciplines that I need to work with. And also, typically when I'm not on a $500 million job, I have 6 or 7 projects that I'm working on, all with a different project manager, all with a different client contact that I'm working with. So anything that I can do to better understand how the people that I'm working with want to work, how they want to be communicated with, and make adjustments so that we can move forward, I'm definitely going to be doing that. And all of this comes from, I am a triangle. So I'm always driving for those results, trying to solve problems. Let's get it moving. And so kind of my outlook on psychogeometrics is from the perspective of a triangle, where what can I do to better work with the folks on my team to move this along?
Wow. And I could visualize each of those. So it's like great examples and visuals of the different shapes. And it's like it breaks it down to a way to really understand it. I love that. So I'm
What
glad
do you think you are, Tiffany?
Probably the triangle. There's been different things as far as DISC assessments and similar to that. So it's like that dominant, or so it sounds like it's similar setup as far as how how to communicate. So when you started saying that, I was like, ooh, I think I'm in that results driven piece, because it's the D for the DISC assessment. So with the dominant, so as you were saying it, I said, oh yeah, I see myself in that part of it. And so I love how you was doing that. I love how you broke that down and was able to do that, because a lot of people need to know where they stand and then how to work with others, because we are thrown in these with teams, and we are thrown with different people, and everybody has different personalities. And so we need to be aware of how to deal with it. And because Bob's in this, we got to go, but we got to work together. And so
exactly,
it's Sarah. So we got to be able to work together, and each of us brings something to the table to get the job done. And so I love how you shared that. Now let's go into, dealing with sharing your experiences and actively being involved with K through 12 students and college classes. This is my passion as well. What motivates you to engage with students, and how do you communicate the importance of engineering to them?
Yeah, so I love working with kiddos. If I always say, if I wasn't an engineer, I would run my own daycare, or I would be a photographer. So I love kiddos. I love talking about engineering and STEM with kiddos. It's so important to be visible as a female engineer, so that kiddos can see, I'm here in your class with my steel-toe boots and my high-vis vest and my hard hat, and this is what I wear every day, and this is what I do in my job. Just the visibility, and just like your book, What Can I Be? You can be this. You can be this. This is what an engineer looks like. This is what a construction manager looks like. And putting it in terms that they can understand, in terms of drinking water and wastewater, which is what I focus on, right? So it's kind of hard to discuss, all the chemical processes and the physical processes that are occurring to make dirty water clean, but they understand. What do you guys think happens when you turn on your faucet? Where does that water come from? How about when you flush the toilet? Where does it go? Why does it go there? What happens to it when it gets to the wastewater treatment plant? So trying to make it relatable is important, so they understand that these are processes that have to occur to keep our society working and healthy and safe. And there's also all of these other jobs and roles that can happen in between. It's not just going to an office. You can be working on pipelines. You can be designing pipelines. You can be working on the treatment processes at the treatment plant. You can be a treatment plant operator and work at the facility 24/7. And so talking about all those different roles, in addition to what I do, really helps them understand.
I love it. I love it. We've got that in common. I love the kids too. I love the kids because they're the ones you want to, instill in them representation. They got to see some representation. A lot of them don't know about these different careers. They don't know about these different engineering. And so I love how you have that passion to be able to encourage them. And so let's talk about the mentoring side of things. Let's talk about the mentoring side of things. You've known for freely providing mentorship and support to those coming up in the field. How has mentorship played a role in your own career, and why do you believe it's important for the engineering community?
Yeah, so mentorship, I think, is a key for any industry, but especially for engineering, because there's a lot of on-the-job learning. You understand, from your college degree or degrees, how to think through problems, how to remain persistent in finding a solution to a problem, maybe a little bit of how to work in a team. But a lot of what you need to know to do your job, you learn on the job.
Mhm.
And having active mentors when you first get started out, and mentors that are patient and make you feel that you can be open with things that you don't know. That was so critical for me starting out, and I had quite a few at Burns McDonnell that were so helpful to me and so gracious to me in teaching me, how to use the printer and and how we standardly format our reports that we write, and even just technical writing as well. A lot of these things you don't just learn in a couple months and now I'm an engineer. It takes years to understand how to operate in a company, how to operate in a team, how to operate, in your profession. And so having those key mentors was so critical for me in being comfortable where I am.
Mhm.
And I try to bring up others behind me as well. I'm always looking
Yeah.
behind me and saying who's coming up behind me. If I leave on vacation for 2 weeks, who can I talk to for 15 minutes and they can do my entire job. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want. I don't need to hold somebody back. Come on, keep going ahead of me. That's all right. We'll do great. And at the Kansas City office where I am permanently based, there's so many talented engineers that are coming up behind me, male and female. And if I'm not doing everything I can to make sure that they're succeeding, I I need to find a different profession, because that's the key. And a lot of our clients, municipalities and industrial facilities, they're losing a lot of their experienced workforce. And so there's going to be a lot more reliance on consulting engineers to fill the gap, I think. And so we all need to be as prepared as possible to keep solving these problems and to make water and wastewater, a safe process.
That's it. That's it. You touched a lot on it as far as the importance of mentoring. I would be remiss if I didn't mention sponsorship too. Are you familiar with the whole mentoring versus sponsorship and just having somebody vouch for you while you're in the room? I just want to at least put that out there, as well as, mentors advise, but then sponsors, there's somebody in that room that can speak and vouch for you. Are you familiar with that and that importance as well, with the, as far as especially with the field that we're in as well?
Maybe not. Could you talk a
Okay.
little bit more about that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just making sure, because a lot of times we say the mentoring, but then we want to make sure as we go up into the ranks and stuff too, that we have somebody in the room, maybe leadership or something, so that they can say you could do the work and everything too. So definitely want to put that out there, as we share about mentoring, but making sure we have somebody who can vouch for you in that room where there's an opportunity as well. And so definitely make sure you got mentoring and sponsorship. And I love how you've shared and tap into the whole mentoring side of things, and how you're not
Yeah.
only just being mentor, but you're also a mentor. You're a mentee and a mentor all in one. So I love how you shared that. So let's talk about it. Your achievements and accomplishments. You've received several awards, including, I say ASCE, but let's do these acronyms: American Society of Civil Engineers, Region 7 Outstanding Young Member, and the STEMI Award. How did, as far as these recognitions, inspire you? And what message do you hope they send to others in the engineering community?
So I have been very fortunate to be able to spend time working with K through 12 STEM programs, working with professional societies, and volunteering my time and effort to bettering, civil engineering as a whole, the Kansas City community as a whole. And so to achieve, these honors from ASCE and also from Central Exchange is incredibly honor. I feel a lot of honor about that. And it is, satisfying to understand that others see the effort that you're putting in and it's actually making a difference. The ASCE award, I think it was mostly based on a program that I started in partnership with the Kansas City STEM Alliance. And so they have a civil engineering and architecture project lead the way course that they organize throughout all of the Kansas City metro. And so we organized a basically summit day for those kiddos to come and learn about different careers in civil engineering and architecture. And we had a career fair that had multiple companies, multiple colleges that were there to talk to the students. This was junior, senior age. And then in the afternoon, each of the schools that came were bused to different project sites or engineering firms and received a tour and kind of understood what the day-to-day would look like. And so that event has now been going on for 5 years. And it has grown. I think over 200 students participated last year. So I'm incredibly proud of that event. A lot of the other activities that I've championed. So it's just nice to be honored with those awards.
Yes, well, obviously you're deserving of it, and the path that you're showing that you're doing and encouraging. I've heard of Project Lead the Way, and that's a great organization. I love that you tapped into that. So what advice would you give to aspiring women engineers or those considering a career in STEM, especially in terms of effective communication and problem solving?
If I were to give any advice for someone pursuing engineering, I would say always ask questions and be persistent. A lot of times being a female engineer can be discouraging, and you have to just constantly keep the pressure on and keep moving forward and be the example for others that are coming up behind you. And so I'm trying to be that example for those that are aspiring female engineers. And so I would just say, ask questions, be clear and effective in your communication, and your written communication skills and your verbal communication skills are everything in your career. If you have an idea or a solution to a problem, but you can't communicate it effectively, it's worthless. And so as much as you can be developing those technical skills for engineering, those problem solving skills that you're going to need, but also those communication skills, because they will send you on a rocket in your career.
You're on it. You've been dropping some gems. I love it. I mean, it's true. It's so true. Being able to communicate is key in both avenues. And I think that's the way to share that and leave us with that advice. So talk to us. How can people get in touch with you further? If we wanted to.
So you can find me on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very active on LinkedIn, and my Burns McDonnell email is mgschroeder@burnsmcd.com.
Awesome. Mariah, it has been a pleasure having you as a guest on the Women in Engineering podcast. Thank you so much for all your great knowledge and experience to share it with us.
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you won't miss our upcoming episodes featuring interviews with inspiring women engineers, discussions about industry trends, and much more. Go to womeninengineeringpodcast.com, where you will find a summary of the key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during this episode. Until next time, may your engineering endeavors be as remarkable as the women whose stories we're sharing. Stay curious, keep innovating, and engineer a better future.